The stench of mildew and forgotten memories hit Ilara first, but it was the low, vibrating growl from the darkness behind her that stopped her heart. Omegas, the voice, like crushed gravel, identified them, are not permitted to bid on territory auctions. Ilara froze, her hand still on the rattling metal door of the storage unit. She turned slowly, pulling her threadbare sweater tighter, instinctively stepping in front of her grandfather. Alpha Kalen stood there, flanked by two of his pack enforcers, his presence sucking all the air from the concrete hallway. He was the alpha of the Silverwood pack, and they were standing on his territory, having just spent their last $200 on a blind auction for abandoned goods. He was carved from granite and fury, and his eyes, a startling, cold blue, raked over her, dismissing her frail grandfather Arthur and her grandmother Beth, who was clutching Arthur's arm. We didn't know, Alpha," Arthur stammered, bowing his head. "The auction was public. We just—" Kalen's lip curled. "You hoped to scavenge on my land?" His gaze snagged on Ilara again. He took a step, inhaling deeply, and a look of profound confusion, quickly replaced by disgust, crossed his features. He could scent her, and whatever he found, he clearly despised. "You are broken," he stated, not a question, a verdict. A 22-year-old female, unmarked, unmated, and blank. You have no wolf. Ilara flinched as if struck. It was the truth that had defined her miserable existence. "Get your trash," Kalen snapped, turning away, "and get off my territory. If I see you scavengers here again, I won't be as merciful." Wait, before the next revelation unfolds, if this mystery has already captivated you, let us know where you're following this story from. To ensure you don't miss unexpected claims, broken bonds, or awakenings under the moon, subscribe and stay close. Now, back to the scene. Kalen's mercy felt like acid. He left, his enforcers casting one last threatening glare. Beth burst into quiet, wheezing sobs. Arthur leaned against the wall, his face gray. "His right, Beth," Arthur whispered, defeated. "We're just scavengers." "No!" Ilara said, her voice shaking but fierce. She turned and yanked the storage door open, the screech of metal echoing their failure. "We paid! Well, look, then we'll go." The unit was pathetic. Damp boxes of ruined paperbacks, a three-legged table, and garbage bags filled with molding clothes. The hope that had carried them through the morning evaporated, leaving the cold reality of their poverty. They lived in the Omega District, a cluster of dilapidated trailers and prefabs on the poisoned edge of Silverwood territory, surviving on what the pack discarded. Ilara, wolfless, couldn't join the pack hunts or the patrols. She was a burden, fit only for cleaning the pack house kitchen, a job Kalen's disdain had cost her 2 weeks prior. "Ilara, look," Beth said, pointing a trembling finger. Tucked in the very back, beneath a stained tarp, was a large, old-fashioned steamer trunk. It was bound in brass, its leather hide cracked but intact. It looked ancient, far too valuable for a unit like this. Arthur and Ilara dragged it out. It was heavy, and a strange, faint energy seemed to hum from it, making the fillings in Ilara's teeth ache. On the side, a tarnished brass plaque was half legible. Ilara rubbed the grime away with her sleeve. "Property of PM," she read aloud. "Attendant to the Moonstar?" "What's a Moonstar?" Beth asked. "Probably just some old-world nonsense," Arthur said, though his eyes were brighter. He jiggled the lock. "It's sealed tight. We'll need to pry it open when we get home." A shadow fell over the doorway. That won't be necessary. It was Rhys, Kalen's beta. He was smaller than the alpha, wiry and cruel, with a reputation for enjoying his work. The alpha has reconsidered his mercy, Rhys sneered. Pack law dictates that any items of historical significance found on pack lands are the property of the alpha. He believes that trunk qualifies. But he said, Ilara started. The alpha changes his mind, Rhys said, stepping into the unit. He doesn't like loose ends, and he really doesn't like omegas getting ideas above their station. He grabbed the handle of the trunk. No, Ilara said. The word was quiet, but it stopped Rhys cold. He looked at her, genuinely surprised. What did you say, little dud? I said no, Ilara repeated, stepping in front of the trunk. He said we could have the trash. This is the trash. It's ours. We paid. Rhys laughed, a short barking sound. You're refusing a direct order? You, the wolf-less runt? He shoved her. Ilara stumbled back, hitting the concrete wall hard. The impact jarred something deep inside her, a spark of cold fury she hadn't known she possessed. Don't touch her, Arthur breathed, moving to stand, but his legs were weak. Rhys ignored him, grabbing Ilara's arm. You need to be taught a lesson. Rhys! Kalen's voice was back. This time, it was lethal. The alpha stood at the entrance, his eyes fixed not on Ilara, but on Rhys' hand on her arm. A possessiveness so primal it defied logic radiated from him. Let her go. Confused, Rhys immediately released her. Alpha, I was just securing the artifact. She's resisting. I will deal with her, Kalen said, his voice dangerously soft. He walked into the unit, the space shrinking around him. He stopped directly in front of Ilara, so close she could feel the heat rolling off his body. He was fighting something, his jaw tight, his nostrils flared. That scent again, her scent, it was driving him insane. He looked at her, his blue eyes a storm of conflict. Give me the trunk, Omega. It's all we have, she whispered, tears of humiliation and rage stinging her eyes. You've taken everything else, my job, our dignity. You can't have this too. I can, and I will. He reached for the trunk. Driven by an impulse she couldn't name, Ilara put her hand on the lid to stop him. The instant his skin brushed hers, it happened. A bolt of white-hot lightning shot up Ilara's arm, slamming into her chest, and she heard a deafening crack like the world splitting in two. Kalen roared, stumbling back, clutching his own chest. The mating bond. It was impossible. It was a catastrophic, undeniable reality. The great moon, in her infinite, cruel wisdom, had bound Kalen, the most powerful alpha in the region, to a 22-year-old, wolfless, broken Omega. The air crackled with the raw, agonizing power of a fated bond locking into place. Ilara fell to her knees, gasping. It was a pain and a pleasure so intense it was indistinguishable. It was a feeling of wholeness, of finally being seen by the universe, even as the man who was her other half stared at her with pure, unadulterated horror. No, Kalen choked out, his body trembling with the force of the bond. It's not possible. Rhys's jaw was on the floor. Alpha, you. Get out, Kalen commanded, his voice strained. Rhys and the other enforcers fled, recognizing the volatility of the situation. It left Kalen and Ilara alone in the claustrophobic space, with her grandparents huddled in the corner, witnessing the unfolding nightmare. This is a mistake, Kalen growled, pacing like a caged beast. A genetic anomaly. You are a dud. You cannot be that. I don't know what this is, Ilara panted, trying to get her breath. But she did know. Every shifter tale spoke of it. The Anshala, the soul bond. and his rejection of it was a physical weight crushing her. "This," Kalen snarled, "is a mockery." He strode to the open door of the storage unit, his back to her. He was fighting his own wolf, which was clearly howling in triumph inside him, clawing to get to her, to claim her. But the alpha, the man, was stronger. He turned, his face a mask of cold duty and absolute disgust. Kalen choked out, his body trembling with the force of the bond. "It's not possible." Reese's jaw was on the floor. "Alpha, you, get out," Kalen commanded, his voice strained. Reese and the other enforcers fled, recognizing the volatility of the situation. It left Kalen and Alara alone in the claustrophobic space, with her grandparents huddled in the corner, witnessing the unfolding nightmare. "This is a mistake," Kalen growled, pacing like a caged beast. "A genetic anomaly. You are a dud. You cannot be that." I don't know what this is," Alara panted, trying to get her breath. But she did know. Every shifter tale spoke of it, the Anshala, the soul bond, and his rejection of it was a physical weight crushing her. "This," Kalen snarled, "is a mockery." He strode to the open door of the storage unit, his back to her. He was fighting his own wolf, which was clearly howling in triumph inside him, clawing to get to her, to claim her. But the alpha, the man, was stronger. He turned, his face a mask of cold duty and absolute disgust. He was the alpha. His bloodline was paramount. He could not, would not, be bound to a wolfless omega. "I, Kalen, alpha of the Silverwood Pack," he began, his voice ringing with formal power, "do hereby—" "No," Alara whispered, scrambling to her feet. "Kalen, please don't. You don't understand the pain." "I understand my duty," he shot back, his eyes glacial. "I, Kalen, alpha of the Silverwood Pack, reject you, Alara of no bloodline, as my mate and my Luna." The word struck her with the force of a physical blade. The bond, so new and bright, shattered. The pain was beyond description. It was not a broken heart. It was a torn soul. Alara screamed, a high, thin sound of pure agony, as the metaphysical tie ripped apart. She collapsed, her body convulsing. It felt like dying. Through the red haze of her pain, she saw Kalen stagger, a mirror of her agony twisting his perfect features. He grunted, bracing himself against the doorframe. Rejecting a true mate was a torment for the alpha, too. But he bore it, his pride a shield against the pain. He looked at her, writhing on the filthy concrete floor, and his expression hardened. "The bond is broken," he said, his voice rough. "You will not speak of this. You will not tell anyone what happened here. This abomination never occurred." Beth was crying, trying to get to Alara. "You've killed her! What have you done?" "She's an omega. She'll survive," Kalen said coldly, though a tremor ran through his hand. "Or she won't. It makes no difference to me." He looked at the trunk, the object that had started this. "Take it," he spat. "Take the cursed thing. I don't want it." He turned and was gone, leaving the echoing silence of his rejection behind. "Alara! Oh, moon baby, speak to me!" Beth sobbed, cradling Alara's head. Alara couldn't speak. The world was gray and cold. The wholeness she had felt for one brief, brilliant second was gone, leaving a sucking void. The rejection was a poison, already spreading through her veins. "Arthur!" Beth cried. "Help me! We have to get her home." Arthur, his face a mask of quiet rage, lifted his granddaughter. She was light, too light. As he lifted her, her limp hand brushed against the brass lock of the steamer trunk. There was a sharp, audible click. The lock sprang open. None of them noticed. Arthur carried Alara out of the storage unit, away from the site of her spiritual execution, while Beth, tears streaming, grabbed a handful of their meager belongings and the handle of the newly unlocked trunk, dragging the past into their terrifying new future. They got Alara back to their small trailer. It smelled of boiled cabbage and old wool, but it was home. Arthur laid her on the sagging couch that served as her bed. She was cold, so cold. "More blankets," Beth ordered, bustling around. "Arthur, light the stove, all the burners. We need warmth." But this was a cold that blankets couldn't touch. It was a soul-deep chill. Alara lay staring at the ceiling, the agonizing echo of the rejection pulsing inside her. The bond wasn't entirely gone. It was a raw, festering wound. She could still feel him, a distant thrum of his own pain, quickly being suppressed by his iron will. He was already moving on, walling off the part of himself that had connected to her. She, on the other hand, was drowning in the wreckage. "Arthur," Beth whispered, coming to his side. "She's fading. Omegas, we aren't strong like them. A rejection from a common wolf can kill. From an alpha? From a true mate? Moon preserve us, what's he done?" "He's a monster," Arthur whispered back, his hands clenched. "He's so obsessed with his bloodline and his strength had killed an innocent girl to protect it. What do we do?" Arthur looked at the trunk, which Beth had dragged just inside the door. "We see what the fates gave us." He walked over to it and lifted the heavy lid. The scent of old lavender and dust filled the small room. Inside, it was pristine. On top lay several gowns, made of silk so fine Alara couldn't imagine it. They were simple, elegant, and seemed to shimmer, untouched by time. Beneath them, a velvet-wrapped bundle. Arthur unwrapped it. It was a single, petrified white flower, its petals perfectly preserved, glowing with a faint, pearlescent light. "It's beautiful," Beth breathed. Tucked in the corner was a leather-bound journal. Arthur picked it up and opened it. The handwriting was elegant, faded ink on thick parchment. He read the first entry aloud. "My name is Petra. I am the first attendant to the Luna Supreme, Selene, the moon's star. I write this in secret, as Alpha Lycaon has forbidden her history. He fears what she is. He calls her barren to the pack, a dud to his council. But I know the truth. Our Luna is not wolfless. She is more." Ilara's eyes, dull with pain, flickered to the book. "Read more," she whispered, her voice a dry rasp. Arthur continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. "Selene is not a child of the earth as we are. She is a child of the moon. She is a celestial. Her wolf does not answer the call of the blood, but the call of the stars. Alpha Lycaon performed the ritual of binding, thinking to chain her power to his, but it failed. He could not touch her. So he rejected her, claiming she was broken, and took an earth wolf as his new Luna, solidifying his bloodline in strength, not in magic." A tear slipped from Ilara's eye. "He called me broken. He called me a dud." "Hush, child," Beth said, stroking her hair. Arthur kept reading, his voice thick with discovery. "The celestial wolf is dormant. It does not awaken at puberty as ours do. It awaits one of two things: the touch of its true fated mate, or the agony of its fated rejection. The rejection is the key of sorrows. It is a pain designed to crack the mortal shell and let the moonlight in. But the key alone is not enough. It requires a catalyst. It requires the bloom of the moon petal." All three of them looked at the single, glowing flower lying on the silks. "It says," Arthur continued, his voice trembling, that the Celestial, once awakened, is the only wolf capable of healing the rejection sickness that poisons both mates. But if the Alpha refuses the healing, if his pride is stronger than the bond, both will die. She will fade first, and he will follow, his pack crumbling with him. He will die? Ilara whispered. The thought brought her no comfort, only a deeper wave of despair. He's killing us both. He's an arrogant fool. Arthur slammed the book shut. He rejected you, Ilara. He chose his pride. He will not accept healing, even if you could offer it. He will let you die to prove his point. Then, this is it, Ilara breathed. The cold was creeping up her arms. I'm going to die. No, Beth said, her face hardening with a resolve Ilara had never seen. No. This Petra woman, she saved these things for a reason. This trunk was found today, by us. You were rejected today. This is not a coincidence. This is the moon's own hand. She picked up the petrified moon petal flower. It was warm to the touch. The book said the rejection is the key, Beth said. This flower is the catalyst. We are going to finish the awakening. Beth, we don't know what it will do, Arthur protested. We know what he will do, Beth countered fiercely. He will let her die. I will not. We have one chance. She walked to Ilara and held the glowing flower out. Ilara, child, the book says this will hurt. It says the key of sorrows must turn. But you are stronger than he thinks. You are stronger than we knew. Ilara looked at the flower. She was so tired. It would be so easy to close her eyes and let the cold take her. But then she saw her grandparents, their faces etched with terror and desperate love. They had spent their last dollars on a storage unit just for a chance at a better life for her. Kalen had stolen that. He had stolen everything. A spark of anger, colder and brighter than the rejection sickness, burned in her chest. He would not be the end of her. She reached out her trembling hand and took the flower. The moment her fingers closed around the stem, the petrified petals crumbled to silver dust, and a column of pure, searing moonlight shot from her hand into her chest. Ilara arched off the pouch, screaming as the celestial power, dormant for 22 years, ignited in her veins. It was not the agonizing rip of the rejection. It was the pain of being remade. Her bones felt like they were dissolving and reforming, her blood boiling and cooling. She heard her grandparents shouting her name, but they sounded miles away. She was floating in a cold, silver void. She felt the shattered remnants of the bond with Kalen. They were like broken chains, weeping black poison. The silver light of her new power touched the chains, and the poison recoiled. The light couldn't heal the bond, not without him, but it could contain the sickness. It walled off the rejection, encasing wounds in a layer of cold, hard light. The agony faded, replaced by a vast, echoing emptiness, and a new, terrible strength. Ilara sat up. The trailer was freezing. The burners on the stove had gone out. Her grandparents were staring at her, their eyes wide with fear and awe. "Ilara?" Beth whispered. Ilara looked at her hands. They were the same, but different. A faint silver light seemed to shine from beneath her skin. Her eyes, when she met Beth's in the small mirror by the door, were no longer a dull brown. They were a clear, luminous silver. The pain was gone. The gaping hole in her soul was still there, but it no longer hurt. It was just empty. "I'm not cold anymore," Ilara said, and her voice was different. It was clearer, with an echo, like two voices speaking at once. Her own and something older. What are you?" Arthur asked, awestruck. "I am Ilara," she said, standing up. Her weakness was gone. And I am a celestial. Meanwhile, across the territory in the Alpha House, Kalen threw a crystal whiskey glass against his stone fireplace. It shattered, much like his insides. The rejection had been a gamble. He had assumed his alpha strength would easily overpower the bond to a weak omega. He had been wrong. The rejection was a living thing, a poisoned wolf, tearing at his entrails, clawing at his heart. He was burning with a fever his pack healers couldn't break. "Alpha, you must rest," said Rice, standing in the doorway. "Your temperature is—" "I am fine," Kalen roared, the sound cracking as a spasm of pain seized him. He stumbled, catching himself on the mantel. "It's the shock. It will pass." "Kalen," Rice said, his voice lowering, "the bond, it didn't break clean. I can feel it from here. It's wrong. It's festering. You need to go back to her, to heal it. You can accept her, keep her hidden." "Never!" Kalen bellowed. "I will not taint my bloodline with a wolf less defective. I will burn this sickness out of me. I will outlast her." "Alpha, what if you can't? What if she doesn't die quick? She's an omega," Kalen choked out, sinking into his chair, a sheen of cold sweat on his brow. "She's weak. She'll be gone by morning. And this pain will be gone with her." "But what if she's not?" Riss pressed, a new fear in his voice. "What if that trunk? Alpha, the elders talk about the moon star. They say she was the first Luna, that she was betrayed. They say her line was hidden." "That is Omega superstition!" Kalen slammed his fist on the arm of the chair. "Fairy tales told by the weak to make themselves feel special. She is nothing. She's your mate," Riss said quietly. Kalen's eyes flashed with murderous rage. Get out, and send for the elders. Tell them I am performing the rite of severance. I will cut her from my soul, even if I have to use obsidian." Riss paled. The rite of severance was dark magic, a ritual that hadn't been used in centuries. It would scar his soul permanently, but it would sever the bond. It would also, without question, kill the rejected mate instantly. "Alpha, that's murder," Reese whispered. "It's survival," Kalen countered, his voice raw. "My pack needs a strong alpha. I will not let it be brought down by a mistake of the moon. Now go." Reese bowed, his heart heavy. The alpha was choosing pride over his own soul. He was going to kill the girl, and part of Kalen would die with her. Back in the trailer, Elara was exploring the trunk. She pulled out one of the gowns. It was pale blue, the color of a winter sky, and seemed to weigh nothing. She slipped it on over her ragged clothes. It fit perfectly. "Oh, Elara," Beth breathed. "You look like royalty." Elara looked at her reflection. The dress, combined with her new silver eyes, transformed her. She was no longer the downtrodden, wolfless girl. She was something else, something dangerous. She picked up the journal. "Petra writes that the celestial power is one of balance," Elara read, her new voice filling the small space. "It is not for fighting. It is for healing, for seeing, and for unraveling." "Unraveling what?" Arthur asked. "The lies," Elara said, a cold certainty settling over her. "The lies that built this pack. Alpha Lycaon didn't just reject Selene. He used his earth magic to bind her power, to make her appear wolfless. He created the Dud bloodline himself, casting out anyone who carried her dormant gene." "You mean," Beth gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, "all of us? All the Omegas? Were not broken? Were celestials," Elara finished. "A bloodline of dormant magic, cast out and told we were worthless. And Kalen? He's a direct descendant of Lycaon. His pride, his obsession with strong blood, it's the original lie, passed down through generations. At that moment, a violent wave of agony slammed into Alara, so intense it brought her to her knees. It was Kalen. It was a pain, sharp as obsidian, a ritualistic severing. His trying to cut me off, Alara gasped, clutching her chest. The silver light within her flared, meeting the dark magic. It didn't fight it, it unraveled it. The severing ritual, designed for earthwolves, had no effect on her celestial magic. It was like trying to cut moonlight with a knife. Alara felt the ritual fail, and she felt Kalen's frustrated, agonizing roar echo through the broken bond. He had failed. He couldn't kill her. But she also felt a new, creeping cold. The rejection was still there, and his attempt to sever it had only made the poison stronger. Her light was holding it at bay, but it was a constant, draining effort. "He can't cut me," she panted, getting to her feet. "But he's not stopping. The rejection, it's still killing us, just slower." "What do we do?" Arthur asked, his hope fading. Alara looked at the journal. "Petra writes that the bond cannot be healed unless the alpha accepts the mate. He will never accept me." "Then we're just in a stalemate?" "No," Alara said, her silver eyes hardening. "He thinks I'm a weak Omega dying in a trailer. He's about to find out how wrong he is." She walked to the door. "Alara, where are you going?" Beth cried. "To the Alpha House," Alara said. "He wants to perform a ritual? Fine, we'll do it my way. He thinks I'm the sickness? I'm about to prove that I'm the only cure." Alara walked through the Omega district. The other Omegas, her neighbors, peered out of their trailers, their faces gaunt. They saw her, in the shimmering gown, her eyes glowing, and they gasped. Some whispered Moonstar, an old forgotten name. They thought she was a ghost. She walked through the woods, the barren, frozen ground of the neutral territory that separated the Omegas from the main pack. As she walked, her anger and her power grew. The rejection was a constant, icy throb. She could feel Kalen's own sickness, his fever, his rage. He was rotting from the inside out, and his pride was so strong he would rather die than admit he was wrong. She reached the Alpha House. It was a huge, imposing structure of stone and timber. The two guards at the door, the same enforcers from the storage unit, moved to block her. "No Omegas allowed," one of them started to say. Alara looked at him. She didn't say a word. She just looked at him, and her silver dual-toned voice slid into his mind. "You will let me pass." The enforcer's eyes went wide. He stumbled back, grabbing his head. He was an earth wolf, bound by dominance and instinct. Her power, the power of the first Luna, bypassed all of it. It was a command he couldn't disobey. Both guards stepped aside, their faces pale with terror. Alara walked past them and pushed open the great oak doors. The main hall was filled with the pack elders, Riss and Kalen. The Alpha was slumped in his throne-like chair, his face slick with sweat, his breathing ragged. An obsidian-bladed knife, the one for the ritual, was on the table beside him. He looked up as she entered, and his eyes widened in disbelief. "You," he choked out, "you should be dead." "I am not so easily broken, Alpha," Alara said, her voice echoing in the stone hall. The elders gasped, seeing her. "The moon's star," one of them whispered. "Silence," Kalen roared, forcing himself to his feet. He was shaking, using his rage to stay upright. "It's a trick. She's a witch. She's... "I am your mate," Alara said, stopping in the center of the room. "And your rejection is killing us both."
Your pride is destroying your pack. My pack is strong, he spat. My pack doesn't need a blank like you. A blank? Ilara laughed, a cold, silvery sound. You call me blank because your earthbound senses can't read me. You called my ancestors duds because you feared their power. You built your entire bloodline on a lie, Alpha Lycaon. Kalen froze.
What did you call me? That was your ancestor's name, wasn't it? Ilara said, stepping closer. The one who betrayed Luna Selene. The one who cast out the celestial bloodline. Your line isn't strong, Kalen. It's adulterated. You cast out your other half. You chose brawn over magic. And now you're paying for it. Lies! He yelled. But the elders were murmuring, looking at Kalen with new doubt. The old legends, they were true. You can feel it, can't you? Ilara whispered, stopping just feet from him. The poison of your rejection. It's in your blood, in your bones. You're dying. And soon, your pack will feel your weakness. Your rivals will come. And this strength you're so proud of, it will crumble to dust. Kalen looked at her, his blue eyes warring with fever, pride, and a terrifying, dawning realization. He could feel her power. It was cool and clear, a stark contrast to the boiling sickness inside him. And his wolf was begging him, howling in his mind. Mate, she is here. Heal, take her, claim her. What do you want? He finally ground out. What I've always wanted, Ilara said, her voice softening for the first time. To not be worthless, to not be less. We are two halves of a whole, Kalen. Your strength, my light. You rejected me. You broke the world. Now you have a choice. You can die here in your pride, or you can accept me. You can heal? Accept? You? He scoffed, the reflex of his pride still strong. As my Luna? The pack will follow their alpha, Ilara countered, but only if he's strong enough to lead. And you are not. As if to punctuate her words, a howl of an unfamiliar wolf echoed from the distance. Riss spun around. Alpha, that howl. It's on the northern border. It's Blackridge. It's Vorlag. Vorlag, the alpha of the Blackridge pack, Kalen's most brutal rival. He was known for taking territories and killing the alphas, claiming their lunas as his own. He knows, Riss said, his voice tight with panic. He senses your sickness. He's here to challenge. Kalen tried to draw himself up, to roar out a challenge, but all that came out was a choked cough. He fell to his knees, the rejection sickness overwhelming him. He was defenseless. Vorlag was going to slaughter him and take his pack. You see, Ilara said quietly, as the pack elders panicked, your pride has doomed you all. Kalen looked up at her from the floor. He was beaten. His pack was about to be destroyed. He had lost. All because he refused to accept her. Please, he whispered, the word torn from his very soul. It wasn't a plea for himself. It was for his pack. Save them. Ilara looked at the desperate, broken man who was her mate, the man who had torn her soul in two. She could let him die. She could let Vorlag take over. It would be justice. But it wasn't the celestial way. The celestial way was balance. I cannot save your pack, Kaelin, she said. Only we can. She knelt in front of him, the pale blue gown pooling on the stone floor. She placed her hand, the one that glowed with silver light, on his chest, directly over his heart. The rejection was your word, she whispered. The acceptance must be yours too. Say it, Kaelin. Accept me. Not as an Omega, not as a Celestial. Accept me as Ilara, as your mate. Kaelin looked into her silver eyes. He saw the truth. He saw the centuries of lies. He saw her, this woman who was his other half, who held his life in her hands. The pride that had defined his entire life finally broke. He gasped, the fever racking him. I accept you. Ilara, my mate, my Luna. He said the words. The moment he did, Ilara pushed her power into him. The silver light flooded his system. It didn't just heal the rejection, it consumed it. It burned away the sickness, extinguished his fever, and slammed the shattered mating bond back together. Kaelin roared, a sound of agony and ecstasy, as his soul was forged anew. The bond, now clear and shining silver, flooded him with a strength he had never known. It was his own alpha power, magnified, balanced, and completed by her celestial magic. He surged to his feet, his body crackling with power. He was healed. He was whole. He looked at Ilara, his mate, in awe. "It's gone," he breathed. "The sickness." "It is," Ilara said, standing with him. "But Vorlag is not." The great doors of the hall burst open. Alpha Vorlag stood there, flanked by his 10 biggest enforcers. He was a mountain of a man, scarred and brutal. He sneered, his eyes landing on Kaelin. "So, the great Alpha of Silverwood is on his knees," Vorlag mocked. "I heard you were sick. I've come to put you out of your misery." Then his eyes found Ilara, standing beside Kaelin in her shimmering gown, her silver eyes glowing. Vorlag's sneer turned into a predatory grin. "And you've already found me a prize, a pretty little thing. Once I've taken your head, she will warm my bed." Kaelin stepped in front of Ilara, and for the first time, he shifted. Not in rage, but in pure protective instinct. His wolf was immense, a black-furred beast of shadow and muscle. But this time, it was different. Silver light, her light, seemed to trace the lines of his fur. "Mine," he growled, the sound a dual-toned vibration of his voice and Ilara's. Vorlag's grin faltered. This was not the sick, dying Alpha he had expected. "Kill them," Vorlag ordered his men. The enforcers charged. Kaelin met them, a black and silver blur of claws and fury. He was no longer just an Alpha. He was the Alpha Prime, bonded to the Luna Supreme. He moved with a speed and strength that was unnatural, his power doubled by the bond. But there were 10 of them. They were overwhelming him, their claws raking his sides. Ilara watched, her heart pounding. She was not a fighter. Her power was for healing, for unraveling. "Unravel the lies," the journal had said. What was the lie here? The lie was that they were stronger. The lie was that their numbers mattered. She raised her hands. "Stop!" she commanded. Her voice, imbued with celestial power, hit the attacking wolves like a physical blow. They froze, their earthbound instincts screaming at them to obey the Luna. "You fight for a false Alpha," Ilara said, her voice calm and carrying, her silver eyes pinning each of Vorlag's men. "You follow him out of fear, but he is not your true Alpha. He is just a bully." "Shut her up!"
Vorlag roared, shaking off the effects of her command. He charged, not at Kaelin, but at her. He knew she was the source of this. Kaelin roared, trying to intercept him, but two enforcers threw themselves at him, blocking his path. Vorlag was too fast. He was going to kill her. Ilara stood her ground. She did not flinch. As Vorlag raised his claws to rip her throat out, Ilara whispered one word: unravel. She pushed her power at him. It wasn't an attack, it was an unmaking. Her magic didn't hit his body, it hit his power. It unraveled the bonds of fear and dominance that held his pack together. It unraveled the alpha spark within him, extinguishing it like a candle. Vorlag stumbled, his claws stopping an inch from her face. His eyes went wide. The immense, terrifying power that had defined him vanished. He was just a man, a big, scared man. He fell to his knees, his shift receding, leaving him naked and powerless. His enforcers stopped fighting, staring in horror. They could no longer feel their alpha. The pack bond was gone. Kaelin, his fur bristling, stalked forward to stand beside Ilara. He looked down at the whimpering, powerless Vorlag. Then he looked at his mate. She had defeated an alpha without touching him. He's blank, Rhys stammered from the side. Just like he called you. Ilara looked at Kaelin. The celestial power brings balance. He had too much. Now he has nothing. Kaelin turned his gaze to Vorlag's terrified enforcers. "Your alpha is gone," Kaelin growled, his voice a pure, undeniable command. "You will leave my territory, and you will never return. If you do, your fate will be his." The 10 wolves, broken and leaderless, turned and fled, dragging their former alpha with them. Silence descended on the great hall. Kaelin's shift receded, leaving him standing tall and whole. He turned to Ilara. The pack elders, Rhys, his entire pack, watched. The arrogant, prideful alpha was gone. In his place was a man humbled by a power he could barely comprehend. He did not touch her. He did not claim her. He sank to one knee, bowing his head. "My Luna," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved this pack. You saved me. I rejected you. I tried to kill you. I was a fool, blinded by the lies of my ancestors. I am unworthy." Ilara looked at the kneeling alpha, her mate. She saw the truth in his eyes. The pride was gone, replaced by a deep, aching remorse, and a devotion that was terrifying in its intensity. She placed her hand under his chin and lifted his face. "Get up, Kaelin," she whispered. He rose, his eyes never leaving hers. "I am Ilara of the celestial bloodline," she said, her voice soft but strong. "And you are Kaelin of the earth. We are not worthy or unworthy. We simply are. Together." She leaned in and for the first time kissed him. The bond exploded, a supernova of silver light and shadow, of earth and stars. It was a healing, not just for them, but for the entire pack, which felt the wave of balance and wholeness wash over the territory. In the Omega District, Ilara's grandparents felt it. The cold, damp air in their trailer suddenly felt warm. Arthur's aching joints eased, and Beth's wheezing breath came clear. They looked at each other, and they knew. Their girl, their Ilara, had changed the world. Weeks later, the Silverwood Pack was transformed. The Omega District was gone. The trailers had been torn down, and the Omegas, now known as the Celestials, were integrated into the pack, their dormant magic slowly being identified.
Ilara and Kaylin worked side by side. He taught her pack politics and strength. She taught him history and balance. The trunk was moved to the Alpha House, its contents treated as sacred relics. The gowns were Ilara's new wardrobe, and the journal was the pack's new law. Kaylin was still a fierce alpha, but his fury was tempered by her calm. He never made a decision without her. His pride was no longer for his bloodline, but for her. One evening, Ilara stood on the balcony of the Alpha House, looking out at the territory. Kaylin came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her. The bond was a constant, warm thrum between them. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured, kissing her shoulder. "That storage unit," Ilara said with a small smile. "My grandparents. They were just so desperate. They spent their last $200 on junk." "They're not desperate anymore," Kaylin said. He had moved Arthur and Beth into the Alpha House in the warmest suite, overlooking the gardens. "Arthur is now my most trusted advisor. He's teaching the elders the true history, and Beth is teaching the kitchen staff how to make her cabbage soup." Ilara laughed. "So I've heard," Kaylin grimaced, and she laughed again. He turned her in his arms, his blue eyes, once so cold, now filled with a warmth that was only for her. "That trunk, it wasn't junk, Ilara. It was destiny. And that attendant to the moon's star, Petra, she was waiting for you." "I know," Ilara said, her silver eyes glowing, "and I'm so glad she did." Kaylin bent his head, his lips brushing hers. "I am too," he whispered. "My mate, my Luna, my star."